Episode 91, man. We are on the road to 100. So we keep on with I'm just gonna drag it out longer and longer. Half of the episode of episode 99 is just gonna be me saying the road to 100.
Road. We're just starting it now. Road.
It's me with a vein popping out. Episode 91, man. It's me, Boise, one half of the tasty twosome. I am here as always with my lovely and just dashingly beautiful, kingly beautiful co-host, Mr. Douglas Davidson. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. I am horrified at the cassette single collection that I apparently have. We were doing that right before the episode started. Daryl made a tag team reference and I started singing it. And then I wondered if I still had my cassette from my younger days. Apparently I don't. And now I'm more devastated than I am finding out that I actually own a Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch cassette single for Good Vibrations. But sometimes you just got to feel it, feel it.
Sometimes you just gotta feel it. Eventually, time would tell that his vibrations kind of medium, not quite good, just kind of
Yeah.
medium vibrations. Unless Peter Berg is there. Yeah, that's
That is actually that is very true. He does some of his best work with Peter Berg.
yeah. Some I've said it before. I'll say it again. Some actors were born to be directed by certain people. I think Samuel L. Jackson was born to be directed by Quentin Tarantino, and it appears that Mark Wahlberg was born to be directed by Peter Berg. I'm not sure what other pairings I would put in there. It's one I would have to think about. One I would have to think about.
What do you think, De Niro and Scorsese?
Yeah, that makes sense. You ever wonder that De Niro looks at Leonardo DiCaprio and was like, "You stole my fucking place, you dick."
I don't know.
Time ravaged his body.
Having heard De Niro talk about his son, who is apparently an actor as well, and the
Mhm.
advice he's given him and everything else, I doubt it. I doubt it has crossed his mind in a negative way,
Mhm.
where it seems more like whenever I hear De Niro speak, candidly or otherwise, it is fascinating because of the image one gets in their mind of who he is from the roles he's played. And
Mm.
then you hear him speak and he's an artist. The like you just don't expect him to have sort of this gooey softness about him, and yet he does.
And yet he does. I wonder if sometimes he looks at his son, and he looks at Leo, and he's just like, "Damn it, the wrong one is my son. Leo should be my successor."
No.
Yeah, nah. And then I would also say Clint Eastwood and Sergio Leone. But yeah, let's keep it on a road, sir. It's been a couple of weeks since we spoke.
Mhm.
What you been watching?
Well, there was a Bulgarian pigeon movie.
I knew it. I knew it.
Um,
I knew it. You
I'm
gave up a
going to try and
screening of
find something
Dune.
from Bulgaria to watch before before 100.
You got a
I'm
couple
going to figure
episodes
it out.
left.
But what I have been watching that I would recommend is a couple of bit odds and ends here and there. One that you can find in select theaters starting on September 1st is actually a sequel. It's an animated French film called Ernest and Celestine, a trip to Gibbertia. I'm actually not sure how to pronounce that part.
Mhm.
It's a silly name, but it's also pronounced in French very differently than the English. So I'm not sure how to pronounce it in English. Had I watched the
Interesting.
film in English, I would probably have a better sense of the pronunciation. But it
True.
is Ernest and Celestine was a book series, and then in 2012 it was released as a film. It won several awards. Then it turned into a 52 episode TV series, and now we have a second movie that is coming out. If you've seen the first film, this picks up um, in a sense well after it, certainly after the television show, with the two characters well established. It's about Ernest, a bear who is a musical bear, and Celestine, who is a mouse who has always wanted to have a bear for a friend. And in the first film, it was about the two of them meeting and about bringing their two cultures of bear and mouse, one above, one below, together and breaking traditions. And this one is about going to Ernest's home, where, having had his violin broken, a Stradivarius, yes, you heard that
Mm,
right,
yes.
he had to go find the one person that could fix it, only to go home and discover that all music has been banned except for one note. Only one note is legal to play in his hometown, and it's
And it's
because he
the B
left.
flat.
I think it's C.
Oh,
In all
okay.
seriousness, I think it's C. And it's cute and it's humorous and it's funny. The best thing about this, honestly, is the visual element. And when we've had films like Puss in Boots: The Last Wish
Mhm.
and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which do some beautiful and remarkable things, pushing the boundaries of what animation can do, this falls in line more with the hand-drawn watercolor look that accompanied the original novels. So you'll be looking at a scene, and on the edges of the frame, you'll see where it's almost as if they just stopped with the watercolor, like in a painting.
Okay, yeah, yeah, I see what you're saying. I see what
And
you're saying.
and
All right.
it's and because it's hand drawn, it's far less smooth and realistic than a lot of animated films. So it gives you this sort of throwback, heartwarming quality about its construction before you even get into the silliness of the story, even though the silliness involves fighting fascism. So that is coming to theaters on the 1st of September. Do recommend that. Coming to Blu-ray and DVD on August 29th, and has been on VOD and digital for quite some time, is a documentary called Odd Hours, No Pay, Cool Hat. It's about
Hmm.
90 minutes long. It's the feature, debut of co-directors Gary Matoso. Wow, my brain just stopped there. And Cameron Zahori. It is a documentary that follows four or five different volunteer firefighting groups across the country.
Okay.
So Wheaton, Maryland, I forget where in California, a group in Washington. I forget if they were down in Miami. There's a rural area in Virginia, and we're finding out about these people and how they got associated with it. My favorite one, to be quite honest, was in I forget the name of the city in upstate New York, has a very large Hasidic community, and there were members of the community that wanted to take part in firefighting, but couldn't because in order to be on the fire grounds where the fire is going into buildings and things like that of that nature, you have to put on a mask. And the way the Hasidim work, there you can't do stuff with your beard. You have to just leave it. And this local group ended up changing their rules, their constitution, all of it, to allow these individuals that wanted to volunteer to do everything up to going to deal with the fire itself. And that's something that we learn about in other areas where it is, you know what, we don't just deal with fires, we transport people to the hospital, we help with medication, we do everything in terms of emergency services. And finding out these different stories and why they got involved. One woman just went to be like, hey, I'd love to be a secretary, and the guy sitting at the desk was like, we needed a EMT, we've just signed you up, we will see you later. And she went, what? She's a retiree? And they showed us, she's telling that story, and then they show us with her going to a call where a guy had just had chest surgery, an older gentleman, and she's taking his vitals and talking to him and doing all this stuff. So it is really remarkable in the sense that there is very little that is stopping someone who feels the desire to help their community from doing that. And
Hmm.
it is quite remarkable. On the other end of things, there is a first time Blu-ray high def release for a 1993 movie directed by Herman Yao, Taxi Hunter. This was released in the same year as Falling Down. So there were, with the bonus features, some comparisons. In fact, the interview with lead actor Anthony Wong, it's uses the name Falling Down in the name of the interview. For those of you not familiar with Falling Down, it's Michael Douglas having a shitty ass day, walking
Stuck
his
on
way
the.
across LA. The man just wants
Yeah.
to get breakfast at 10:31. What do you mean?
Yep.
And he's
Don't take
just
that walk through Echo Park.
He's getting in one shitty situation after another and replying in kind. With Taxi Hunter, this film, what?
Oh, that's putting it mildly.
It's a very much putting it mildly. With Taxi Hunter, it's about a young man by the name of Kin, played by Wong, who his I'm trying to think of the most succinct way to put this. Takes place in Hong Kong. Cab drivers are assholes, like creating situations where they can rob people, creating situations where they can bully people, assault people, do all these different kinds of things. And after having had two shitty experiences with cab drivers, the third one puts him over the edge because it results in his wife, who's in the middle of a miscarriage, getting dragged by the cab and killed.
It's not what you want.
Yeah. So he decides he's going to go after the cabbies, but he is specifically only going after asshole cabbies.
Okay.
And his best friend, who's played by I apologize, I'm not even going to try and pronounce it, I'm going to butcher it completely, but his best friend is the police officer who's sort of leading the case or involved in the case of it, and you know that at some point these two are going to come to a head. Now
Mm-hmm.
apparently Taxi Hunter was given what's called a category 3 rating, which is the equivalent of an
Ooh.
NC-17 rating in the US, and in 93 this was a huge deal, especially because Taxi Hunter is actually inspired by a real taxi strike that took place. Um, I forget when, all of a sudden, I apologize. But it was inspired by a real taxi strike, and the taxi strike was happening. There was like a 2 day riot because some fees were being raised and licensing and all this other stuff. And the cabbies were like, this is not fair. And things sort of went out of control. Well, Taxi Hunter was inspired by that. And it is violent, it is bloody, it is nowhere near as gory as I would think something that's equated to an NC-17 movie would be.
Mm.
Uh, Particularly if it's 18 plus only that could see this movie in Hong Kong. Obviously, we're dealing with different standards, but in 93, with Falling Down coming out, which is rated R, and I've seen Falling Down. I like it's in my collection. I like it. I would not put these two at a different rating. So it's definitely a cultural difference.
Yeah.
But if you remotely curious, if you like Hong Kong cinema, the restoration being just a standard HD 1080p restoration is good. It's certainly going to be much better than the 2010 DVD that was released in the States. So you can get that from 88 Films, either if you've got a region free player, or you can find something like Diabolic DVD or MVD Entertainment Group, who was kind enough to provide me the retail copy to review, to purchase a copy. So those are the three films I wanted to mention.
It's a person who saw with his own eyes the giant cabbie versus Uber brawl of 2014 in New York, right outside the Javits Center at New York Comic Con, where all the cabbies locked in the Uber drivers because they were stealing their business and they all started throwing hands. I 100% need to see this movie. Um, I have never been more blessed to be in the right place at the right time to watch that brawl go down.
I'll lend it to you. Be delighted to lend it to you.
Excellent. That should made my day. Hopefully, this movie makes my day. And I watched a couple of movies, man. You know, we say all the time on this show, usually towards the end of the year, we have a common saying here is you can't watch everything. And I just knocked off a 1990 something classic film that I'm embarrassed and ashamed to say I finally watched it in full for the first time, that being Silence of the Lambs. Not a whole lot to say. We all know it's dope. It's Silence of the Lambs. Jonathan Demme did his damn thing. I don't think there's a whole lot left to say about Silence of the Lambs that hasn't already been said. So I'll go ahead and move on from there.
Before you
Um,
do, I have to share something. You don't do Twitter, right? Excuse me, TikTok, right?
Absolutely not.
Okay. But you're familiar, people, the way that it functions. Sometimes people post videos, sometimes their videos are responding to other people's videos.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I came across one just yesterday. A black woman was like, hey, question for the white people. Do you guys use lotion? And if so, what are you using it for? Cuts over to a white girl. Background is green screen, but it's the well with the dog. And she goes, oh, you know what we
That's the
use it for?
notion.
We don't want the hose again.
Ah, that's good. Good use right there. I like
I'm
that.
sorry, I couldn't help myself.
Excellent. I did watch an Iranian movie, the third movie in the Clover trilogy. I've talked about the first two here on this show. For those who might not listen to those episodes, the first movie, Where is the Friend's House? Filmed in the late 80s, I do believe, about just a shitty little town in Iran called Poker. Um, it features a student who was got into a little bit of trouble at school, comes in late. The teacher's pretty much says, "Hey, you cause any problems, you fuck up again, I'm going to expel you." And due to circumstances, him and our protagonists accidentally get their paperwork mixed up, and our kid that we follow accidentally takes this kid's homework home, so he can't do it. Yeah, so this kid knows that if he can't get this homework to this kid, then he's going to show up tomorrow with no homework and get expelled. So that's the entirety of the movie is him doing everything within his and he has no idea where this kid lives at. So he's just wandering his town side and all that that entails. Very good movie. And then that's where things start to get after the filming of this first movie, a giant earthquake happened where they filmed it. And the second movie, it's going to go off the top of my head, is the director acting as if that first movie was a movie in real life. And it's a father and son who watch this director's first movie, hear about the earthquake, and they say, "Well, what happened to the people who were in the movie?" And they go to Coker to try to find what happened to these people. It's just kind of like a road trip between them. And then occasionally you see a face or two pop up from the first movie where now instead of playing characters, they're playing themselves as the characters. Yes, I played that character in that movie that we just saw, which gets a little bit weird. But there is a scene in that second movie where he's just kind of hanging around one of the surviving parts of the neighborhood and he's talking to a brand new husband. Like, we just got married 5 days ago. And he's like, wasn't the earthquake like 4 days ago? And he's like, "Hey, 6 days ago?" And he's like, "Yeah, we decided to go ahead and get married after the earthquake." So he has this whole conversation with this married couple. And husband he's talking to, the wife's kind of out of the frame upstairs, and she's yelling down at him, and he's yelling back up at her, and all this kind of stuff. The movie goes on.
Mm-hmm.
This third movie is a fake director directing that scene in the second movie. That's the conceit of this third movie, Through the Olive Trees, which is what I watched. Um, and then the conceit behind this is that husband that the guy is talking to, the actor who's playing that part of the husband, we find out secretly in love with the woman who was playing the wife. Only it's not really so secret. He's consistently throughout the beginning of the movie asks for grandma's hand in marriage because both her parents died in the earthquake. And the grandma's just like, "No, you're of low birth and low stock, and we want nothing to do with you. We want her to marry." And he's like, "I'm trying to marry him. I'm the illiterate one. She is not. I just want to give her the best life. That's all I want to do." And that's his whole conceit throughout the movie. And a director is kind of low key peeping this whole relationship between these two play out as a fake husband and wife, while one actually wants to be a real husband and wife. Kind of like Ryan Gosling and Eva Mendes and whatever movie it was they were together. I think it's We Own the Night is the movie that they are in together. No, is it We Own the No, he's not in that, is he?
Beyond the Pines.
Beyond, yes, A Place Beyond the Pines, I think is
I
what he's
haven't
in.
seen either. I think
Yes, that's the.
can't
I think
remember
that's the movie.
about the first one, but Beyond the Pines, I know I haven't seen. I've heard very good things, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah, and Gosling said that that on the set they're this married couple and they have this kid and they're pretending to be his family. And the more they did that, the more he's like, I kind of want this with her. And now they're married with kids, so good for him.
And
And
that's
this
just
is
enough.
that's just he's got all the kids you need. Um, and that's what this whole thing is about is this man constantly pouring his heart out to this woman who does not say a single word to him in the entire film.
Mm.
So it's you get kind of for people who don't really understand the filmmaking process, you get kind of a bit of a veil pulled back because we see this director trying to direct this scene of, all right, well, no, cut. We got to fix this. We got to change this. This isn't working. You actually switch out actors because the other one wasn't working out, and that's when he gets his chance to slide in there. And it's the exact same actor from the second movie now playing the man is the best way of putting it. And it's just this wonderful, heartfelt story about a guy who just wants to give his all to this woman who is not paying him the least amount of time possible. And it's just a good little movie on filmmaking as well. And director's just trying to do the most subtly massaging the situation so he can put this guy in places where he can try to make his moves. And it ends up just being a wonderfully beautiful movie about a person finding some kind of love after this horrible tragedy has befallen this town. Um, Fallout of the people having to deal with this and people wanting to tell stories about it at the same time. And obviously, the director, Amos Kiarostami, if I'm pronouncing that last name correctly, his want to tell this story of I shot a movie here and then horrible things happen. I want to keep coming back to this location every couple of years to find out. And they allow a couple of kids to come down to the set to watch. And one of the kids is the boy from the first movie, and one of the kids is the boy from the second movie. So familiar faces kind of trickle through. Now that I've seen all three of these movies, it is probably in my top 10 or 12 favorite trilogies of all time.
Wow.
Because they're just great human stories. They're never too long. They're always hovering like about 105 minutes or so. So it gets in, it hits you with an impactful story, and it gets out. As far as endings to a movie, this one through the olive trees might be in my top 10 favorite endings of all time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
great movie. And I did not expect to find myself. I was like, I got some time. I'll throw this on real quick. Did not expect to be as sucked in as I was.
The way that you've talked about this trilogy, I'm now thinking that once I get through, I've moved them now. They're no longer over there. They're over there so that I can see them and they can stare at me now.
Mm,
But when I get through the Charlie Chaplin's and Tom Popo and a few others that I've picked up, maybe I'll do a blind buy on the Coco trilogy. Give it a
yeah,
shot.
go ahead and do that. I feel like these movies would be your alley. You seem to have a real connection for stories tell great human conditions.
Hmm.
You seem to glom onto those a lot, and I think this is a great example of that.
I also do love a movie about making movies.
Yeah,
Stuff like Trumbo and Be Cool
right. I wish
and
there was just a little bit more of that. Like his production system is mean as shit throughout the entire movie, and it's just all sorts of little things in there. At the very end, where they have finally the scene captured, and they're starting to break down. The production crew is arguing about the most efficient way to get the equipment to their home camp, and it's like the argument escalates and escalates to the point where the director sidles over and he was like, "We're stalling for as long as we can, man. Go talk to her." The stuff like that, man. It's got its funny parts. There's a scene right there in the direct middle of that movie that was just soul crushing. Well done, very well done.
oh.
It was, some might say, incredibly dramatic.
I, I'm seeing what you're putting down. I'm gonna
Yeah.
pick that up. That is our topic for today. We are talking about dramas. We are talking about the films that move us. And as always, I did put together a little list, and I have to thank Letterbox for making this easy because I was like, well, shit. I know even recently I've tagged some movies with drama. So I hit that button and went through. So I've got movies like Onibaba, A New Resume, Godzilla, the original, Merrily We All Go to Hell and Dance Girl Dance, Red Angel, Cool Hand Luke, The Lost Honor of Katarina Bloom, Chilly Scenes of Winter. What a shit fuck that movie is.
And
Star
that's on
Trek.
my to watch list.
What is?
Chilly Scenes of Winter.
I can lend you that one as well.
All
Lend you that
right.
one as well. Star Trek: The Motion Picture, A Moment of Romance. Fisher King, Malcolm X, Minari. I had to include Photograph. Shiva Baby, True Romance, Afterlife, Five Fingers of Marseille, Riders of Justice, Irma Vep, and Sound of Metal are just a few of the dramas that have been released. And there's several on this list that also have elements of comedy and elements of science fiction and elements of these other things, but are very much heavy on drama.
Yeah, I feel like drama is just so fucking boring.
Well, the
A
same thing can
genre.
be said of an action movie. For example, I think I talked about it on the. Did I not talk about A Moment of Romance? Holy shit, I should have. Thought I'd talked about on previous episode. Benny Chan's first solo directed film, although apparently he may have had some help from Johnny Toe that's unaccredited in making it. Johnny Toe.
Johnny Toe.
Um, but A Moment of Romance is a crime movie, a drama, a romance, a comedy, a martial arts flick. It is so many different things, and they all fit together in a way that you wouldn't expect.
Mhm.
So a film can have, I mean, just like we could talk about science fiction movies, and we might pick one that's an action film, another one might be a martial arts film, another one might be a horror film or whatever else. So there's a lot of overlap, and I mean, a lot of the genres we talk about. Last time we talked about mysteries. Some of them could have been Shutter Island wasn't mentioned, and Shutter Island's a mystery, but
It
it is a
certainly is.
thriller. You know, so there's all kinds of little ways in which we can play with one genre and then see where it overlaps with others. I'm going to go ahead and kick this off, and I sort of have you to blame, not for
Mm.
this film, but for this director and creator, because you had been talking about Satoshi Kon for a while. You've talked about what is it, Perfect Blue, and I think you've talked about Paprika. If I is that right?
The not Inception movie? Yes, yes.
I still need to see both of those. I still need to see the both of those, and I have Tokyo Godfathers, and I still haven't checked that out, but I have it. Um, but the one Satoshi Kon film that I have seen that I absolutely love, I had to include it on this list is Millennium Actress. It's from 2001. You can get it in a beautiful steel book from Pick Your Retailer. But for those of you that aren't aware of it, it's about a documentary filmmaker who is trying to make a movie about a studio that has fallen apart. And he wants to go speak to this legendary actress about her work there. And there's a connection between the two of them through the studio that we learn about as we go through the movie. But as we learn her story, the way that the animated film, for those of you that don't know, this is an animated movie, but it is that blending of period, blending of time. It's a film that's as much about the love of making movies as it is telling its own story, where the documentary filmmaker and his assistant keep popping up in the time periods that our actress is talking about, from when she was a child, from when she was an adult, young adult, et cetera, et cetera, and keep appearing and engaging with her. Sometimes they're not breaking the fourth wall so much as that's when you get the sense that they're having their conversation in her living room. It is a beautiful, beautifully told movie, not just in terms of the animation, but in terms of the characterizations, the reveals that you get. It is an incredibly moving movie that if you have not seen it, I cannot recommend it enough. So that's from 2001, Satoshi Kon's Millennium Actress. And if you are a Kon fan, he apparently also, before his passing, did a TV show, Paranoia Agent, and just discovered yesterday, as of this recording, that it's normally $60 on Blu-ray from Crunchyroll, and it's $25 on Amazon. Yeah, I bought that sight unseen because I think Pres Rick has popped up somewhere talking about this program being how good it is, and I was like, it's been on my Netflix and they don't have all the discs. So rather than waiting for Netflix to maybe send me one, particularly as their service runs out next month, I just figured, fuck it, $25 sight unseen. I will finally experience Satoshi Kon's Paranoid Agent. So yeah,
You know,
that's my first.
when it comes to anime, man, Rick Presses is he's one of the go-tos in Paprika and has been for quite some time. The whole Paprika episode is dedicated to good starter points for anime and all sorts of good stuff like that, man. Check that out. Actually, you can't check it out because it doesn't exist anymore. I took it right down. I decided I wanted to have movies that are straight dramas with as little subgenre as possible, just
So like
straight.
Atonement. You did Atonement,
Oh,
Atonement, and then Atonement.
that dramatic, good lord. Um, First one I just erased because it's just a movie that's I lamented before we started recording that my list is incredibly basic, and now I'm kind of changing some things on the fly because it's movies I've talked about so many fucking times. It's time to talk about something new. Um, so that movie goes off the list. I want to talk about a movie that I've mentioned a number of times, but not as much as the others, and I can't not bring it up. We're talking about Trauma, man. 2016's Moonlight, directed by Barry Jenkins. It is comes
I'm
in
sorry,
that
did you mean La La Land?
absolutely the fuck not.
Hold on, everybody. We're going to recount the votes. Check the envelope.
Hey,
Sorry, I couldn't
Warren
help
Beatty, Faye Dunaway, you get out of here. Get out of my room.
I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself. Moonlight
Yeah,
is a beautiful movie. I apologize.
it's quite all right. I feel like this is when A24 could not miss. They were firing on all cylinders right about this time where they reached public consciousness. And this is the movie that really catapulted them and catapulted Barry Jenkins to a new stratosphere. Odd that Trevante Rhodes didn't parlay this to more because I think he's absolutely amazing in this movie. I guess all
Agreed.
the shine went to Mahershala Ali, but the thing that stands out for this movie
Where'd you
is
know?
Andre. Well, I mean, she's had her shine. I think Naomi Harris had her shine. It was Andre Holland that's really stood out from a stellar ensemble cast like Moonlight. Like you just mentioned, Trevante Rhodes, Janelle Monáe, who always does good work, Naomi Harris, Mahershala Ali. But man, Andre Holland, for some reason, his performance and what little screen time he gets, if you're unfamiliar with what Moonlight is, it's the story of one young man, Chiron, if I remember, like Chiron.
Mhm.
Uh,
I think you were right the first time.
yeah, Chiron. Growing up in mean streets and finding his identity, mostly sexually, is what this movie is exploring in a community where that is incredibly frowned upon. Um, my One of my biggest laments about the greatest art form of music there is, hip hop, is how they have continually looked down on this community, and that is explored as well. It is a product of the environment being a product of the environment being a product of the environment. Generations of ill parenting and unhealthy ways of thinking, and this young kid who's looking to know something is different about him, and he wants to break out and explore his sexuality. And how can he do that in ways that won't get him killed at the same time? And you see how it kind of manifests itself in this uber macho uh, persona in the later stages. It's told in three different stages: his young kid stage, his mid-teens when he really starts discovering these things about him, and then him as a full-grown adult and how that's affected him. It's a beautiful story. It's a great forbidden lovish story in a way between him and Andre Holland's character, who kind of share this beautiful, tender moment when they're young, and then it's just never spoken about again. Uh, it's some of the best cinematography that came out that year, I think, and Barry Jenkins really left his stamp on on filmmaking, on storytelling, on the drama genre with Moonlight.
It will not frustrate hmm. His follow-up, if I remember right, is If Bill Street Could Talk.
But
And that movie is so
yes.
beautiful and wonderful as well. And I feel like even though Barry Jenkins, that was his follow-up to Moonlight, not enough people saw it and appreciated it. Because
Mhm,
it
mhm.
because and that, if I remember right, Beale Street is an adaptation. I forget the original writer. But it's another film where the cinematography was on point. It has a phenomenal ensemble cast telling this story, and Barry's continued to do really solid work. But I agree with you, Moonlight was a jumping off point for a lot of people. Certainly A24, I think, who had already been releasing quite a few films that had built a name, but I mean, it made it all the way to the Academy. So,
Took
yeah,
that very coveted award. And it reminds me of something that Stephen King said when people say, "Hey, I think The Stand is the best book you ever written," and he's like, it's kind of shitty in 2023 when someone says my best work was in 1980 something, and I feel like it's just when you have that splash, it's hard to get out from under that shadow. Everything peels done. I was like, is it better or worse than Get Out? And I feel like it's kind of the same way with Barry Jenkins. Like, yeah, but is it better than Moonlight? And then I want to see it. And it's a gift and a curse. That's what it
yeah.
ends up being.
And the great thing is, at least in my opinion, when it comes to Peel, you brought him up. Uh, they're all amazing, just different.
Right, right.
I may not put on Us, where I might go, ooh, let's watch Get Out, but man, Nope. I've wanted to rewatch Nope, and just it requires time and focus. And Crystal hasn't seen it yet. I bought the 4K. I'm like, come on, we need 3 hours. So anyway,
Ruby bastard that note. Yeah, what's your second pick, sir?
my second pick is a film that I've probably talked about. I know I've talked about before because they did a 4K release. It got a physical release from Criterion, and I reviewed that and I came on and recommended it. I've talked about it before because you're a big fan of Bong Joon Ho, but I had to include this in this list not only because it is my favorite of the films I've seen from Bong, but also uh, Ryan Johnson had the most amazing reference to this movie, and it fucking broke me. It is 2017's Oksha.
Sure.
If you are not familiar with it, I'll explain the poker face reference in a minute. But Oksha is about a young girl by the name of Mija who lives in Korea. Her grandfather and she are part of this program where a bunch of farmers around the globe were given what's called a super pig to raise. And then this company was going to name one of these pigs the best pig, at which point all the pigs from there on out were going to be raised in the same way. Now, Mija was told that when her pig Oksha, should Oksha win, will be they can buy Oksha and have it on the farm. That's not what happens. And this is a film that's exploring capitalism. It's exploring the food industrial complex. It's exploring friendship. You've got good guys who are fucking bad guys. You've got bad guys who are actually good guys. And you've just got this story about love. It is heartbreaking. It is the closest I've ever come to become vegetarian because there's some scenes in here that are incredibly hard to watch. Even though Oksha being a super pig is very much CG, the circumstances and situations and some of the on location sets are incredible. And the whole film is incredibly moving. Whenever somebody says Netflix has never made a movie anybody wants to remember, I fucking point at this because it is incredible.
Or milkshake.
I mean, Gunpowder Milkshake is fun, but it's no Oksha.
No ocean.
But with Poker Face, for those of you not familiar, Ryan Johnson has a television series on Peacock, and it stars Natasha Lyonne, who has the ability to tell when people are lying. She doesn't necessarily know what they're lying about. She just knows that whatever they say something's not true, it's not true. Well, in one episode, she's found her way to this guy who runs a barbecue joint. It's his life. And she's made friends with him and she's working there and whatever. And he's looking for a movie to watch. She's like, well, hey, how about this one and this one? And here's this great one called Oksha. And I was like, oh God. Oh God, no. It was so beautiful. It's so well done. It's just slid right in there.
Good
I
job,
went,
Ryan Johnson.
so it's been on my brain. So when we got this as a genre, I went, I have to, not just because it's been on my brain with Poker Face, but it's also such an incredible, rich, deep, complex, beautiful movie.
Right on. Right on. Yeah, of all the Bong Joon-ho movies I've seen, I think Okja is nearer the bottom, but still great performances. Still a great movie. Near the
Mm.
bottom, just because if you make a list, something's got to be down there. But that does
Oh
not
yeah.
take away at all from it.
Right now, I
Right on.
think for me, it's Memories of Murder,
Okay, yeah.
and I
For
still need to
me,
see The Host and Mother,
for
and
me,
Barking Dogs Never Bite.
the host is at the bottom for me because I was supposed to have a big part in that movie because I was there in
Oh,
Korea while it was being filmed, and circumstances caused me to not be able to make it. So I'm still bitter about
book that
it.
movie. I won't watch it now. I
Every
was
time
going
I
to
come
buy it.
across
I
it,
hold on. I'm going to
every
Amazon
movie.
right now, and I'm taking it off my list.
Take
Daryl
it off
couldn't
the
be in
list.
you. I'm not watching it.
Yeah.
Solidarity.
Solidarity, and that is solidarity is why I couldn't be. I agreed to be my buddy's power of attorney for stuff was getting moved. So I was like, can't show up the set because yeah, I told my buddy I'd do this one. Anyways, yeah, the second movie is a movie that I have talked about maybe once or twice, but it's been some time. It is, as far as I'm concerned, the best Amy Adams has ever been. Second best Amy Adams has ever been in a movie. It is 2016's Nocturnal Animals, directed by Tom Ford. Yeah, the suit guy made a movie, and he made a pretty fun movie at that. Amy Adams, Jake Gyllenhaal, Michael Shannon in his driest performance ever, possibly. Aaron Taylor Johnson in his most asshole performance ever. Isla Fisher, because they finally played on that. Is it Amy Adams or Isla Fisher? All through that had been a long running thing. Tom Ford said, I'm going to put them both in a movie. I'm going to have Isla Fisher play Amy Adams. It's for those of you, Andrea Riseborough, before she was the target of a squiffy Oscar campaign. It's got some people in there, man. Jenna Malone is in there as well for a cup of coffee. If you're unfamiliar with what Nocturnal Animals is, it is a story within a story of a man who wrote a book, who mailed it to his, I do believe, ex-wife. Yes, they weren't married. Mails it to his ex-wife, estranged ex-wife. They haven't talked in many years. She is now married to Army Hammer, who ends up being a complete piece of shit in the movie, and it's out of the blue. Here's the book I wrote. And she is reading his book over the course of a night. And what she is, maybe 2 nights, because Armin was going for a weekend. And what she is reading is what we see play out the story of a gang of bad guys who waylays a family, beats the shit out of the dad, and absconds with the mother and the daughter. And the dad going to the police, and the officer assigns to the case being Michael Shannon. And Michael Shannon asks him, "How far are you willing to go to get your daughter and your wife back?" And that's the conceit of the story within the story. Outside of that, we come to realize that there is a lot of Amy Adams's character that he put into the story. So he's kind of just telling her about herself all throughout this, and how he's viewed her. Kind of a shitty ending to this movie, or if you're a younger person who you don't really have a whole lot of maturity about you, you can be like, yeah, well deserved. But if you give this a repeat viewing as you grow up, you realize what life is about. You're like, oh, this is kind of a fucked up, shitty ending. And I love it. I love it. It's because it is Tom Ford, a man who knows style, looks amazing. Amy Adams has never been better dressed in a movie. Jake Gyllenhaal has never been better dressed in a movie. The set design, costume design is wonderful. For a guy who just made a suit company, Top Ford has a sure hand in directing, and it's kind of shitty as far as I know. I'm not sure what other movies he's directed. Apparently, a movie called A Single Man before this, and he was falling for a Julianne Moore Nicholas out. And then after this, he just never made another movie. So again, 7 years. Drop the dope flick and disappear. And then I'm gonna go back to cutting these cloths. And what we got, if this is all we ever get at Tom Ford, that he went on top.
I myself have not seen it. I was just checking on this while you were talking. I apparently have a digital copy. I'm guessing a reward somehow from
Burger King.
maybe. But yeah, like, you redeem X number, they offer you a free movie, what have you. And I've heard good things, so clearly I redeemed it, but I have yet to watch it. I've yet to watch it. Not the Amy
Uh,
Adams movie I thought you were going for,
I thought I was
but
gonna go with what, a right?
what was that?
I was gonna go with Arrival.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I'm playing it straight down, no genre. It's a straight trauma.
Which is fine. But when you're talking about it, best you've ever seen Amy Adams, that's what you've always talked about is like the
That's why I
pinnacle.
that's why I recanted and said second best for Nocturnal Animals because
I'm like, wait a minute.
Arrival.
This is
Oh,
2016. That doesn't sound right. Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
actually, they're both 2016, aren't they?
They are.
I think Arrival's either 16 or 17.
Well, now we
Arrival 16, yeah, they're both 2016. That's the banner year for Amy Adams, and she has not
huh.
been able to top this year since.
I wonder if
Definitely not in recent
Nocturnal was a
years.
summer movie as a thriller. And then
That's
because Arrival was a November
it's
film.
a fall movie, yeah.
Oh, he also
It
did a single man. Oh, okay. I
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
realize it was the same one with Colin Firth, Julianne Moore. I've
The
another one
fun
I've heard of but haven't seen.
they were both November releases. No one has
What?
ever. I'm pretty sure Arrival was November. It was fall time,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
yeah.
No one has owned a month. They were the same day.
What? Who would do that?
No, no, they were a week apart. They were a week apart. One was November
Still,
11th, one was November 18th. Two completely different genres. So I guess you can get away with it. No one has ever owned a month harder than Amy Adams owned November of 2016.
Jesus.
Yeah,
That's
good for
just.
you.
I mean, yeah, but still, what?
And And the cinematographer for Nocturnal Animals is a guy named Seamus McGarvey. There is no more Irish name than that. What is your final selection there, sir?
I can beat that. May he rest in peace. It had popped up in my memories on Facebook the other day. One of my favorite teachers from undergrad at UNC Asheville. I shit you not. I will never forget this story. Born on St. Patrick's Day, Seamus Patrick McNerney. He got thrown out of the bar on his 21st birthday. Like, get the fuck out of here.
Oh, they thought it was like a fake ID or something
Yeah,
like that.
Seamus Patrick McNerney, born on St. Patrick's Day. No, no, get the fuck out of here.
That's hilarious, man.
Yeah, never forgotten. He was amazing. He was a wonderful thinker and just a giant ball of energy and
Yeah,
just the sweetest, most compassionate human being.
right on, right on.
Anyway, anyway, not to bring the room down, but I'm with that story, but I'm about to bring it the fuck down with my movie. Because in thinking about dramas, I'm going through that list, as I said at the beginning. What have I seen? What is a movie that means something to me? That for putting together a list of dramas, whether I've talked about it or not, what would I want to put on there as something that is a favorite of mine that I'm going to recommend at every opportunity? And it's Justine Bateman's 2021 release, Violet. There's a movie that I will always describe as, would you like to know what it's like inside my head? Watch this film. The premise of it is that Violet, played by Olivia Munn, is keeps hearing a voice, which is brought to life by Justin Theroux. That all this voice does is talk shit about herself. It's that negative voice in her head, and it keeps driving her to make these fear-based decisions. So they're not always necessarily something good, uh, pushing her away. It's not an intuition. It's a manifestation of an intrusive thought. And we also get visual representation of intrusive thoughts where she'll be doing something and then all of a sudden we'll get a montage of like rotting fish and other really fucked up things but they're always the same things over and over again throughout the movie. And there's some wonderful supporting actors in here. Luke Bracey, Zachary Gordon is in this. We've got because it takes place in LA, you'll see people like Jim O'Heir and Al Madrigal and Rob Benedict pop up, Keith Powers.
Oh, Madrigal.
But they're either going to be playing a version of themselves or they're going to be somebody else entirely. Like Steve Agee's in this, Rain Phoenix is in this, Colleen Camp from Clue is in this. Um, but it's about her getting her shit together and finding a way to start fresh. It's 92 minutes. It is, I think, the only 5-star review I wrote in 2021.
21.
Mhm. It is. I saw it at South by Southwest. I've been raving about it ever since spring of 2021. I was very fortunate to be able to cover it. That doesn't always happen, and I've been waiting for a physical release ever since. But I think the best we're going to get is digital. But I want to hold it in my hand. I want to be able to just have a copy. But if you've never seen it, it is, when I say it's not an easy watch, it's not that it is violent or she's like abused in some way for us to observe. There's no like Elle Fanning and Galveston type of abuse going on here. Um, but it is a hard watch. But it's incredible. Some of the best acting I think I've seen Olivia Munn do, and I've enjoyed her in quite a few things. But this is one where I would go, if there was a show reel of her work, I would put this film on.
Right on. Right on. My final swerve, man.
Mortal
I'm gonna have to.
Kombat. It's got drama.
It's got is definitely got some drama in there. Definitely. If only the first 15 minutes of the 2021 Mortal Kombat carried all the way through for the rest of the movie, that
I
could have been
know,
something.
right?
Could have been something. I'm going to go back to the 80s with my joint. The 1989, specifically directed by young men named Spike Lee, Do the Right Thing. For me, probably either number one or two, depending on what you ask me. I think best movie about a set in one block of time, not even a 24-hour period, just straight sun up to sundown. Um, and not just one day, but damn near one location, just 4 blocks, maybe
Mm-hmm.
city blocks. And it's just, is it Brooklyn? Yes, Brooklyn is the hottest day of the summer in Brooklyn in 1989. All of the tension that bubbles up with the heat. I know that Black people are fond of saying is people do ornery things because they're hot, and you get a little bit of that here. And it's not all bad. You also get to see some good that goes along with it as well. You get to see, along with the riot at Sal's Pizzeria, you get to see Ossie Davis finally connecting with Ruby Dee after he's been trying and hollering at her for the entire movie. She finally gives him a little bit of kind of like through the olive trees. She finally at the end of the movie gives him a little bit of respect and a little bit of love, and you show that they see that maybe she's always been kind of fond of him. So you get little moments of that in there as well. I think Annie Harlow is great. It was Sal. I think John Turturro is great in his role. You get Bill Nunn as Radio Raheem, which is like an icon to a lot of people as a fictional African American character with the love hate 4 ring fingers, the giant jukebox. It's Run DMC really making their announcement as well to the outside world who didn't already know about hip hop, just showing the tension bubbling, 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 bubbling. And when it finally spills over, you get the trash can being thrown through the plate glass window. You get fucking bugging out Giancarlo Esposito that's just stoking
I
those
keep
coals.
forgetting he's in this.
He's kind of the inciting thing that really turns things south in the movie. And the first on-screen appearance of the most beautiful woman of all time that's out there in the world. It's got everything in this movie, man. I think the weakest link in all this is Spike Lee and his role I think is it Moses? Is his name? Mookie. I don't know where I got Moses from. Mookie. It's just all throughout, man. It's a great movie, man, and it does it all 2 hours on the. You get in there, you get this stuff, and stuff that's still being talked about to this day. With police brutality and all that, and the choking out of radio writing and stuff we still see on a damn near daily basis. It's been talked about way back in 19. It's not really way back, but you see that these things are still prevalent in this time, and nothing has really changed. These are the movies you watch to realize that in our times, not much has changed.
Yeah, there's a relatively new, I say relatively new. I think it premiered at South by this year, and it's now out on home video. The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster, and
Mm-hmm.
it is very much an homage, like a heavy homage to Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. But it takes place, I believe, parts of it were shot in North Carolina, if not all of it. But it's taking place in a black neighborhood, a very small black neighborhood. And anytime the cops show up, it doesn't matter whether you're part of the gang that exists in the neighborhood or you're one of the kids just trying to go to school and get out. If the cops show up, you're it's there's
It's
trouble.
over. It's
Yeah.
over.
So there's no safety necessarily, and that just came out, and it's exploring some of the ideas that you were just talking about. I haven't watched Do the Right Thing in years. When I decided to start buying Criterion films, that was when I made sure to pick up, and I've opened it to look through it, but I have not watched the disc yet, and maybe I'll change that in 2024. It's too late at this point. It's going to be September soon, and it's FYC, so 2024.
2024. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Six good movies all around, I would say. Six good dramatic movies. The drama was there in all of these. You
It
want to talk?
was.
You want to talk about this year challenge? Sure, we did a double blind.
We did a double blind, which, speaking of FYC, it was partially done. I thought you'd seen it because you are a Wes Anderson fan. You enjoy his work typically.
I think it hit when I was in the run of my 70-hour work weeks.
I I I am not as much of a fan of Wes Anderson. I've gotten to a point where I feel like it's kind of the same movie. They're different themes. I still haven't seen Moonrise Kingdom, but there's different themes, but the way that they're made has started to become sort of the same.
Mhm.
And I'm not getting any joy out of revisiting that same thing. Um I didn't get the chance to see this. It's out on Peacock now to stream, right? Yeah, Peacock. It's
Yep,
available
yep.
there. It's also out on home video to own or stream digitally. But I just know that Focus Features or Universal is going to put this up for FYC. It's Wes Anderson. Why wouldn't they? It's a massive ensemble, so they're going to push that. And so I thank you for doing this double blind because it gives me one fewer to watch this fall. Um, do you want to do the description since Anderson's your boy?
This is my boy, man. And by description, I'm just going to read the synopsis on Letterboxd. It's the fictional American desert town circa 1955. The itinerary of the Junior Stargazer slash Space Cadet Convention is spectacularly disrupted by world-changing events. Um, Bro, I wasn't feeling this one. I just wasn't feeling this one. I came in with high hopes. Even in the trailer, I was just like, all right, it's West, so I'm gonna enjoy it. But then somewhere in the back is like, I'm just not getting that same tinge of excitement that I've gotten with French Dispatch. And had I like missed Grand Budapest in theaters, and I still kick myself daily for that. But Isle of Dogs, I was like, this is gonna be some goofy nonsense, and I can't wait to watch it. I just didn't get that with this. And then like halfway through, I was like, this movie is not doing anything for me.
I had a similar feeling. And keep in mind, I still think fondly back on Fantastic Mr. Fox. Every time there's a Criterion sale, I'm like, do I want to? Because there's something about Anderson's quirky sensibility with the animation style in that one that is a lot of fun. And Isle of Dogs, I appreciated that as well. I saw it once and went, I'm good. But with this one, I thought the conceit of it's funny in the last episode you talked about the vast of night, and that's sort of what this is trying to be, maybe,
Mm,
where the conceit is that which the description doesn't give away, is that when the movie begins, it's sort of a Twilight Zone era television studio with Bryan Cranston playing the host who is narrating the making of this movie by a playwright played by Edward Norton, who is trying to write this thing that he ends up calling Asteroid City, and we are going to watch that production. And the Bryan Cranston portions are in black and white, letting you know this is the present day, and the movie is colorful. Now the present day stuff is, it was more what, like 4:3 ratio, is a little bit boxed
yeah, there's
in.
the aspect ratio is different than it kind of lets you know where you're at, right?
Yeah. And then it was a little bit more modern, traditional for the film proper. I thought the production design was great. The opening sequence with the train, I almost want to know, with the bonus features, if that's explored at all. I'd love to know if that's miniatures because it looks like
Oh,
miniatures.
it's 1000% miniatures.
And I love that kind of attention to detail. That was something that went, okay, this is interesting, this is cool, I can dig this. Love those little kind of details. That it's just art. It's just art in filmmaking. But there was something about the stilted way that everybody is talking to each other amongst this entire thing where I'm just going, all right, I get it. Everybody's sort of elevated in a way, but I would get it if Jason Schwartzman plays a character whose wife has passed away and he's kept it a secret from their three or four kids. And him, I get being sort of like out of it, but everybody talks the same way.
Right, right. The only person I would say that's outside of that is Jeffrey Wright, and
That
Wes
speech is
gives
pretty
him
great.
he. I think Wes is like, I this guy's got a voice. I got to let him flex that voice a little bit, and gives him one or two good little speeches in there. But yeah, everyone just has that same cadence. Like there's no individual voices
Yeah.
that will define a character in a movie.
Yeah. I've seen, I think, the French Dispatch twice, one for consideration, one for home review.
Yeah, I love that movie.
And I couldn't get into that one either, but I liked the some of the vignettes, and they each had their own vibe, they each had their own style, and so you felt that the performances kind of went along with that. I didn't get any of that here with Asteroid City, and I know of a couple of folks, friends of the show, Thomas Manning, Gabe Lapalambella. They both love this movie, and I wish I could see what they see, because clearly there's something I'm not getting. I feel like I should sit down with a notebook and have them explain the movie to me so I can go back and watch it and see what they see, because I find it hollow and vague and absent the warmth that it's clearly going for in the flashback sequence that takes place between Jason Schwartzman and Margot Robbie's character. I feel like there's something that's supposed to be there, some magic, that linchpin that pulls it all together, and I got nothing.
Nothing, man. I got a whole lot of nothing for this movie, which is pretty disappointing. Looking at my Wes Anderson filmography list, and out of the 11 feature films that he's made, I got it down there at 7. It's disappointing to me. I mean, especially coming off the high of French Dispatch for me, which I just really dug. It makes like that low further fall even more crushing for me.
Well, I mean, I don't think just because we like a filmmaker doesn't mean that all of this is part of my thing with like Scorsese or Spielberg or Nolan, that where we go, it's Nolan, it's gonna be amazing. Yeah, but what if it's not? It's okay for it not to resonate with you. It's okay if you like a director, but all of their films don't work for you. At some point, we sort of put these directors up on these pedestals, and we sort of forget, you know what? they do a thing, they make a thing, and it's okay if they don't always speak to you. There are quite a few directors where I go, man, if it's Richard Donner, I want to check it out. But that doesn't mean I'm always going to like it. And I think
Uh,
there's a difference between going, it's okay not to like it one, and going, they do no wrong. And being able to say, Wes Anderson, I like your movies, but maybe not this one. That's okay. That is
yeah,
okay.
I agree with that sentiment, with the exception that Chris Nolan can do no wrong. But other than that, yeah,
Just because it
some
may not have happened for you yet doesn't mean that it won't.
doesn't mean that it won't, which is also an impossibility. And there's things that's underneath Asteroid City. I like you telling Mr. Gabe, like, sit me down and explain why you love it. For me, that's the World Tenenbaums. I don't understand why everybody loves that movie as much as they do. Like, I got that lower than Asteroid City and a couple others. This one is just kind of right there in the middle for me, but it seems like we're of a similar wavelength here on this bad boy.
And you know what? That's okay. That's
That's
okay.
okay. They're not all bangers. And yes, that is one less. I've got my little production design asterisk by it, and I'll keep it moving from there.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
Boom, boom, boom.
And
You got
that
anything else before we wrap this bad boy up?
I don't, except to say, fingers crossed, things go well. Episode 92, we should be talking about martial arts, and things go well. We will have a wonderful special guest for everybody.
We will have a wonderful special guest, ladies and gentlemen. Jet Li is going to be on the episode. I can't
Don't
wait
don't
for
fuck with me like that. Don't fuck with me.
it. It's
No.
going to be good shit. But we'll be back, man. We'll be back. Keep this genre train on rolling and rolling to what, Douglas? Rolling to the
Road to
road to
100.
100. So we'll see you
Road
to 100. We will
to
see you 2 weeks. We'll be back with a fresh new episode right here for you at Cinnamon. Until then, you all take it easy.
watch more movies.